Ooh, it's time for the package from China, so let's go. But let's take a close look at this newer generation of Gamebox devices. What is going on and what are we getting, and is it actually worth buying? First, let's do a quick overview of this piece of plastic. What's maybe fun to show is the way how they actually assembled this using these plastic nuts with the metal screws. So I'm not going to be removing the hard drive yet. I just want to slide this main board out and ooh, okay. So there comes really some serious heat from here. So one of the reasons why this thing was like the weird thing that was going on is that the one of the screws were already loose. But you know what's even more interesting, that they didn't implement a backup battery. Okay, that's weird. So we do have like a single style of memory. Let's see what they're using. They're using Kingston. Okay, that's nice. But yeah, again, it's a single channel. So this is the performance, what you're getting. And to see if this thing even going to be booting up, because maybe with transport something messed up. Whoa, ventilation is going to be starting up. And this is it. Okay, so it seems to be booting up. That's a good thing. That's a good start. Booting up into Battlezero Linux. Let's see what's going on with Battlezero Linux itself. The game Retro. There's actually the store that's selling these things, or sometimes it's like another store that sells another store's products. But let's see what's going on and how is it, the overall specifications. So when it comes to the 1TB edition, I think you're going to be having more space for actually PlayStation, Sega Saturn and stuff like that. But I just also wanted to showcase like how freaking long it takes for this thing to boot up. But let's take a close look at what you can actually do. So out of the box, this thing comes with all kinds of different platforms that support. Of course, due to the power of the Gamebox depends how much we can upscale or not at all, or we can play. So you can see we're having all kinds of different emulators. I think when it comes to the GameCube, Wii, Sega Saturn and Dreamcast, there we're going to be finding quite a lot of challenges. But overall, I think it's pretty cool. PlayStation 2. So it is quite a nice overall collection. I love how they implement all of the thumbnails nicely. I don't know if there is a video. No, they didn't implement the video, but it's absolutely awesome. And you know, there's something you don't see very often. So at this point, I must say that I'm quite surprised how well they configured everything at this point. But if you just want to play some old school emulation with the Game Boy, this is just going to be fun. But take consideration, there are like really cheap options out there nowadays. I did notice like 20 bucks, you have like this plug and play stick that can just do the same thing. But when it comes to the compatibility, I think there's going to be having the biggest overall issue. What kind of emulator are they actually running? Yeah, this is the same situation like God of War. You can see this thing is not powerful enough to run the three-dimensional games. Right, actually to a certain point, I wouldn't say playable, because this runs really slow. But of course we're going to be needing a little bit of testing of the Sega CD. And that seems to be booting up. This is possible sometimes they just completely mess up the most simple emulators. But with the Sega CD, it seems to be all working just fine. But you don't see anything going on, so let's see, this is going to be set correctly. Okay, this is messed up, look at this. Oh man. It does hiccup. It's like freaking uncontrollable. This thing is way too sensitive when it comes to the joystick. So but overall, besides like minor hiccups and glitches, this is absolutely playable, or to a certain point. But the controls are absolutely a mess. And that makes me wonder, like, is this to do because I'm having these fake PlayStation 5 and they mapped everything with a different controller? So with the intro, we also see that we do have some great performance. But I think when it comes to God of War, we need to get into the gameplay to see what's actually going on. So when it comes to the PlayStation 2 emulation on this older i3, we have seen a couple of these devices that had the option to actually boot up PlayStation 2 games, but it runs a little bit better now. Of course, it's still not like it's supposed to be. But what is more interesting is PlayStation 2. How will that run? Because this is going to be absolutely a challenge, because some of these older PCs do struggle big time. So I must say the overall layout, I do like it. When it comes to the configuration, they did an amazing job over here. But let's see what's going on. There's not a lot of stuff on here because of the old 500 GB drive that we're having. Darius Boost is not like the most difficult game to actually emulate. Of course we're going to be needing some God of War, but I just wanted to see what is going on. So So those mini games can be played without any problem whatsoever, but also I see that we have some overall great performance when it comes to these kind of games too. So Place Portable on native is quite promising, that is one thing. You can get into the menu, so far I have seen, we can speed it up. Nope. So that's quite unfortunate. Well, it would be fun to actually get into the main menu, or at least the emulator menu, and mess around with its settings to see how far we can push it sometimes. It's kind of cool to see Xbox Classic added to the list of many different devices, but oh yeah, already the Xbox logo struggles big time. So when it comes to emulation on these devices, I must say that it's always going to be a little bit of an hit or miss with the more high-end systems. But of course there is so much that you can actually play with this. It's absolutely insane. However, the 8-bit, 16-bit, handheld, I don't really expect a lot of problems there. But I think an image like this just needs way more power. Think about an AMD Ryzen at least that has like a better onboard GPU, and of course have more power, more cores and everything else. But if you just want to play the old school games, I think there are like way better options out there. So we do have like Plants vs Zombies. Let's just boot it up for fun to see what's going on. Does it even boot up? Because I had tried this a gazillion times off camera with different kind of devices, but also going to be having so many freaking issues. Yeah, like this one. So I just wanted to check it out. We do have like Xbox, that is kind of cool. So I do wonder like what's going on with this. I just wanted to start up with something simple like Tetris. But this seems to be working all fine. So we know what you're getting with this particular one. So let's try the red little one with an SSD. I think I'm actually having a problem over here because I can't get this freaking mainboard out. It's just been sliding in, or it looks like it, but somehow it's so stuck I cannot wiggle it or get it out. So, but you can actually see, I don't know if it's actually like able to see, that this thing does come with a single RAM module, so that's not going to be like super high speed. So one of the things I always love to try out is the MAME. So, oh crap, I really hate that you can press left or right for the next list. So if you're going to be booting up, let's say Arkanoid, let's boot it up. Let's see if it's even going to be booting up, because MAME is such an annoying emulator. Sometimes you mess it up, but it seems to be working like it's supposed to be. So that's absolutely great. I have these like shenanigans timer. So I was pretty surprised of how good the overall controller is actually feeling. Let's see if you can actually play. Everything has been mapped correctly. So emulation performance, I think for the MAME that's not going to be a problem. This device does have the option to play a little bit more than normal game boxes. I'm going to be using the analog stick too. It's really sensitive. I really have to play with the D-pad, but you know, MAME seems to be working fine. Let's see how can I actually reset. I'm pressing the mode. It's going to be giving me the reset. Okay, that's great. So that part seems to be working fine on Neo. Oh man, such a bummer about the overall pictures. We can try to scrape them if you want to, but beside that, it's going to be the same shenanigans with almost everything. Missing out a lot of stuff. Let's get into the Blood Bros with the Neo emulator. That also seems to be working fine. And this is just going to be absolutely great. Man, Blood Bros is absolutely one of the games that you should try out. I have some really good memories of it. I played it a lot on the arcade machine. As a child, I never knew how it was actually called, but later on, when I was messing around with some, let's say, machines, I noticed that this was one of the games I played back in the day. So when it comes to, let's say, the overall software, it's not like super bad, but you see that there's a lot of struggles with a lot of different systems. Atomiswave, another system that is normally like unplayable, some of the game boxes, game sticks, but let's boot up into the Dolphin Blue to see how it is with these, let's say, older PCs. Alright, so I cannot move the freaking character. Emulation performance seems to be working fine, but I don't know what's going on, but nope. Oh, wait. I pressed the mode button. I can finally move around with the character. Does the analog stick work too now? No, it doesn't work at all. Sega Dreamcast on native resolution can be played on these devices without any problem, but I just want to do a quick overview. And I think this is a system that can also be played on those cheaper game boxes. I have seen a couple of, let's say, with a more expensive game stick that do have the option, but also depending what kind of emulator, if they're using Reincast or if they're going to be using Redream. But let's see if we can manage to accelerate here. There we go. But yeah, there is no problem here, as you can actually see over here. So Sega Dreamcast emulation is actually possible and absolutely awesome. Woohoo! just cruising around. Don't care about the money. But when it comes to overall emulation, you can see that the old stuff runs quite well. So if you just want to have like an old school Neo Geo Pocket and products like that, that is absolutely fun to actually play. We can just very easily, quickly go to a different platform. And also, yep, if you just boot up just some Sega Mega CD, you can just do that without a lot of hassle, because these things run just fine. So with these things, maybe we do have left and right a little bit better performance, for example, N64. But is this really worth it? Because we have so many budget solutions that can almost do the same, and these things are just really old pieces of tech when it comes to the CPU, GPU, RAM, like limited RAM when it comes to that. And you know, and overall, I must say that it's a little bit disappointing. They're just reusing old stuff that we have seen many times before. Let me know in the comments, join me, and it will be great to see you in the next video.